For a long time, it has been said that it's difficult for young players to break into Premier League starting 11s. Young players need experience in order to develop and cut out mistakes, but with the fragile job security among managers and the enormous amount of money at stake for clubs, it can be tempting to take the easy option and pick tried and tested players over exciting, but potentially error-prone youngsters. I think there's been a shift away from that mentality this season and maybe over the last couple, and the early success of clubs like Chelsea and Leicester this season has been heavily dependent on some excellent young footballers. Now, when I say under 23 in the title of this video, it's not like under 21 football where you can be 23 by the time a tournament comes around. When I say under 23, I mean under 23. These are my views on the best player at every Premier League club, aged 22 or younger at the time of recording, based on current ability, not future potential. Arsenal. Kieran Tierney. There are obviously a lot of good young players at Arsenal, from established first-team regular Matteo Guendouzi to their exciting new wonderkid Gabriel Martinelli. The best right now though, aged under 23, has to be Kieran Tierney. Signed from Celtic in the summer for £25 million, Tierney's Arsenal career has taken a fair bit of time to get going due to injuries. He made his full league debut against Crystal Palace at the weekend though, and I think it'll take another injury to put him back out the team again. Quick, athletic and hard-working, Tierney is an excellent fullback, and I think the 22-year-old will start to show why he was a 3-time SFWA Young Player of the Year in the coming weeks. Bournemouth. David Brooks. It's a toss-up between Welsh duo Harry Wilson and David Brooks at Bournemouth, but since Wilson is actually a Liverpool player who is only on loan at Dean Court, it makes sense, to me at least, to go for Brooks. Those outside of Bournemouth may be starting to forget about Brooks, who has missed the first couple of months of the season with an ankle injury, but he's expected to make a return in November. Last season was Brooks' first in the Premier League and only his second in terms of regular football at all. Nevertheless, he looked right at home, scoring 7 goals and making 5 assists in just 30 league appearances. Brooks is a quality player with real elegance on the ball and intelligence in the pass, and he's still only 22. Brighton and Hove Albion. Aaron Connolly. This one is made rather easy by Aaron Connolly's bright start to the season, with the Republic of Ireland international having scored 2 and assisted 2, despite having made only 3 starts in the Premier League this season. Born in Galway in the year 2000, Connolly's only previous first-team football was 2 appearances on loan at Luton last season, but he certainly contributed for Graham Potter in an attacking sense this season. Burnley. Dwight McNeil. It's a bit of a no-brainer at Turf Moor, where Dwight McNeil looks to be a really bright prospect. The teenager became a regular in the Burnley team in the second half of last season and made a real impression. The 19-year-old wide man is leggy, purposeful in possession, and never afraid to crack off a shot or fizz the ball into the box. He joined Burnley from Manchester United as a 14-year-old, and he's now a key man for Sean Dyche in Lancashire. Chelsea. Callum Hudson-ODOI. Chelsea's start to the season has got a lot of people talking about the fantastic young players Frank Lampard has at his disposal right now. Tammy Abraham has scored 8 goals in 10 Premier League games up front, Mason Mount has bagged 4 in 10 from midfield, Fikayo Tomori has looked really solid at the back, as well as scoring a spectacular goal against Wolves, and Christian Pulisic even strolled into the Blues starting 11 to net a perfect hat-trick at Burnley over the weekend. There are others besides those 4 I could mention, but my choice, perhaps surprisingly to some people, is Callum Hudson-ODOI. Hudson-ODOI has been catching eyes at Stamford Bridge and St George's Park since he was 15, and he is a potentially frightening prospect. He suffered a really nasty injury towards the back end of last season, but he looks to have made a full recovery, and we could start to see just how good he really is in the coming weeks. Crystal Palace. Gary Cahill. Just kidding, Nia Kirby. Please do correct me if I am wrong in the comments, but I think I'm right in saying Crystal Palace are the only Premier League team without a player under the age of 23 who has registered a Premier League appearance. Nia Kirby, Sam Woods and Nicola Tavares are all aged under 23 and listed in Palace's first team squad, but none have yet registered a league appearance. Of the trio, I think Kirby shows the most promise, and he was part of the England squad along with the likes of Callum Hudson-ODOI and Jadon Sancho, who won the Under-17 World Cup in 2017. Kirby made 11 appearances on loan at Blackpool in League One last season, but he's yet to make his competitive debut for Palace. Everton. Richarlison. There are probably 3 under-23 players we ought to mention at Everton, namely Tom Davies, Moise Kean and Richarlison. Of the 3, it's hard to look beyond Richarlison at this stage. Davies has all the makings of a very good midfielder, and Kean showed in Italy that he has enormous potential. but Richarlison is the one who has shown his class as a match winner at times already for the Toffees. Tough, versatile and very expensive, Richarlison set Everton back a potential £50 million when he joined from Watford, but that's what it'll cost you these days for a 22-year-old who has scored 6 goals from 13 caps for Brazil already. Leicester City, James Maddison. I would quite happily say this was the hardest decision in this entire video, trickier than even Chelsea and Manchester United. James Maddison, Wilfred Ndidi, Ben Chilwell, Youri Tielemans and Harvey Barnes are all aged 22 or younger, and all are very good players. I flip-flopped between Maddison and Tielemans a couple of times, but if pushed, I'd probably go for the Englishman. Tielemans is a class act whose arrival is a real mark of where Leicester are as a club, but Maddison is still probably the more dynamic, inventive and productive of the two. It's a tight call, not just between those two, but Maddison is the one I'm going with. Liverpool, Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's a much easier decision up next with Liverpool, where Trent Alexander-Arnold has been superb since breaking into the Reds' first team. It sounds cruel, but Nathaniel Klein's injury may well have been a blessing in disguise for Jurgen Klopp, since Alexander-Arnold has been such a revelation at Anfield. The England international only recently turned 21, yet he made 12 assists in the Premier League last season, which is a record for a defender during the Premier League era. Given that a lot of Liverpool's creativity comes from their fullbacks, one could make a case for Alexander-Arnold being Jurgen Klopp's finest playmaker. That's a discussion for another time though, and the point in case is that the youngster is certainly Liverpool's best player under the age of 23. Manchester City, Gabriel Jesus. Manchester City are not short of talented young players, although they did let one of their finest go in the form of Jadon Sancho. Aged 22, Gabriel Jesus is still eligible here, and with that in mind, I don't think I can pick anyone else. I recently saw someone describe Jesus as a flop on Twitter, despite the fact he has averaged a goal every 122 minutes at the Etihad. That's the same rate of goals per minute as Thierry Henry had in the Premier League, and it makes him more prolific than Ruud van Nistelrooy, Robin van Persie, and Luis Suarez. I wish that I was as much of a flop as Jesus. Getting a game in front of Sergio Aguero is never likely to be easy, but Jesus has scored 50 goals in 110 games for Man City in total, and when you think about how many of those games he actually started, there can be few doubts that he is among the best young strikers in the world. Manchester United, Marcus Rashford. This one was up there with Leicester and Chelsea in the difficult decision category, with new signings Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Daniel James giving academy graduate Marcus Rashford a really tough challenge. In the end, I've just about stuck with Rashford, but I can't claim to be wholly convinced by my own decision if I'm honest with you. Wan-Bissaka is a brilliant young right back, Dan James already looks like United's most creative player, and Rashford is now their main man up top. For his age, still only 21, Rashford is playing with enormous weight on his shoulders, and it would be fair to say he isn't really being given the chance to develop as most players would like. Nevertheless, he's already at double figures in 3 consecutive seasons, dating back to when he was 18, and it would be a big shock if this season wasn't his best yet. Newcastle United, Sean Longstaff. The toughest challenge to Sean Longstaff's crown as the best under-23 player at Newcastle United probably comes from his brother Matty, although I should mention Alan St. Maximin, who looks to be a real livewire at times. Sean is the older of the 2 Longstaff brothers, still aged only 21, and he has already had a couple of bumps in his brief career. Longstaff's 2018-19 season ended in March due to an ankle injury, and he was sent off for the first time last weekend for a poor tackle on Ruben Neves. Somewhat surprisingly, uncapped at youth level, Longstaff is industrious, a good passer of the ball, and capable of chipping in with a goal. Norwich City, Max Aarons. Newly promoted Norwich City have a quartet of very promising first-team players under the age of 23. They are Emi Buendia, Jamal Lewis, Todd Cantwell, and Max Aarons. Buendia is a gifted and inventive forward, Lewis is a very good left-back, and Cantwell made an excellent start to life in the Premier League. It wasn't an easy decision, but I think Aarons remains the pick of the bunch. He had an excellent breakout season at Carrow Road last season, and he's now England under-21's first-choice right-back. Aarons is still a teenager right now, and he'll turn 20 in January. Sheffield United, Dean Henderson. Sheffield United have plenty of good players aged between 23 and 26, but only really one regular under the age of 23. That one is Dean Henderson, and he is only actually on loan at Bramall Lane from Manchester United. Henderson was the Blades' #1 as they won promotion from the Championship last season, and the club managed to borrow him again this season. Manchester United reportedly value the 22-year-old at £20 million, which would make him Sheffield United's joint record signing, but finding a safe pair of hands in the Premier League isn't easy. Southampton. Moussa Djenepo. Southampton are a club renowned for their superb youth system, but it is two signings in the forms of Mali international Moussa Djenepo and France youth international Yann Valery, who are the club's outstanding players under the age of 23 right now. Moussa Djenepo made a fantastic start to life at St Mary's, but injuries have limited him to just 3 Premier League appearances to date. In those 3 games, Djenepo has scored 2 goals, including a terrific solo run and finish against Sheffield United. He could be key to Southampton's survival hopes if he can make a return to full fitness. Tottenham. Tanguy Ndombele. By far the most expensive signing Tottenham Hotspur have ever made, Tanguy Ndombele set the North Londoners back over £50 million. For that kind of money, you'd expect a pretty special player, and I happen to think Ndombele is. He's made a mixed start to life at White Hart Lane, as Tottenham have made a pretty dreadful start to the season, but Ndombele is still only 22. Athletic, good on the ball, and quick in transition, Ndombele was fantastic for Lyon last season, and he takes this one over the likes of Juan Foyth, Ryan Sessegnon, and Kyle Walker-Peters. Watford. ISMAILA Sarr. Another club record signing, Watford fans were somewhat surprised to discover their club had forked out reported £30 million to bring ISMAILA Sarr to Vicarage Road. A dangerous right-footed left winger who's quick and loves to run with the ball, Sarr scored 13 goals in 50 games for Rennes in France last season. What's more, he's already been capped 26 times and has scored 4 goals for Senegal, a pretty impressive amount of experience for a 21-year-old. We're yet to see him turn on the style in a struggling Hornets side, but he's still their best player under the age of 23. West Ham. Declan Rice. The best player under the age of 23 at West Ham may not be as cut and dry as it first appears to be, since French centre-back Issa Diop is only 22 years of age, and he's a player I rate highly. Rice has probably still got a little bit more to his game, as a really promising defensive midfielder who previously played at centre-back. Rice is solid, alert, strong in the tackle, and covers a lot of ground. Capped 3 times by the Republic of Ireland in 2018, Rice began playing for England in 2019, and he has won consecutive West Ham Young Player of the Year awards. Wolves. Ruben Neves. The final entry in this 7, which is done in alphabetical order, and it's not necessarily a straightforward one. Ruben Neves and Diogo Jota are both key men at Molineux, and both are under the age of 23. The Portuguese duo are both aged 22, but whilst Neves has already won 13 caps for Portugal, Jota is still awaiting his senior debut. They're both excellent, but I think Neves is a special footballer, and it was his signing that really stamped Wolves out as a team simply too good for the Championship in 2017. He has excellent vision, awareness and technique, and is equally capable of just keeping things ticking over nicely or slicing through a defence with an incisive through ball. So it's Neves who takes the final spot in this video. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Feel free to give the video a like if you enjoyed it, in fact please do, and make sure you're subscribed to HITC Sevens. Oh, and head over to www.englandsgreatestdefender.com to have your mind blown by the best football book ever written.